Hello IELTS candidates, I hope you're doing good with your IELTS preparation. In today's video, we are going to guide you on how to answer a cue card question that has been reported by IELTS candidates to be asked again and again in the speaking part 2 of the exam. We will teach you how to start your answer, how to do good with vocabulary. We will also teach you how to do good with grammar, both in terms of accuracy and range, and how to end the answer as well. I hope that you learned something new today. Welcome to my IELTS stream. So before we start teaching you, we want to give you a disclaimer. The examiners are trained to catch memorized answers. Make your original content following the guidelines given here. So unlike a lot of IELTS channels out there on YouTube, that will simply give you a word-to-word answer to every single question. We are not going to do that. We are just going to guide you on how to form an original answer in the most effective way possible. Giving memorized answers is actually very harmful for you because the examiners are trained to catch them. Another thing is, you are not the only person who's following an IELTS guru on YouTube that's teaching how to give answers in the cue cards. There are a lot of students and a lot of candidates who follow the same YouTubers and give the exact same answer in the IELTS exam. The examiners are not stupid. They are going to know that all of you have cheated. So today we are going to discuss the question and we are going to guide you on how to prepare an answer for it, but in your own way. Let's start. The question that we are going to talk about is describe an older person whom you admire. So here you have to talk about somebody who is older in age and you like that person. So what you can talk about, or whom can you talk about in this case? You can talk about your parents, your grandparents, your school, university or workplace seniors, or else you can even speak about older siblings or cousins, or simply you could talk about a friend that is older than you but you admire him or her. So these are the different people that fall into the category that the question is talking about. The bullet points will be something similar to who is this person, how do you know him or her, what kind of things do you like to do together, and why do you admire him or her. Now, a lot of people might not know this, but it is not compulsory to answer the bullet points in this speaking part. I'm not discouraging you from answering that, but just in case, if you find this to be distracting from your thought pattern about the question, you can leave these things out. But I would say that these are quite obvious things because they are answering the question. So who is this person, and these two particular things, why do you admire him or her? Who is this person and why do you admire him or her? These are the important things that you should be answering if you face this question. You can start it by giving a general perspective on the topic, like how older people play an important role in motivating you. You could start it by giving like a general introduction to the question, but keep in mind that don't speak about the general manners of the topic for a very long period of time. What some students do is that they just talk about it generally for one whole minute, and then after that they come to the point and they actually say, this is the person I want to talk about. Don't do that. You can also refer to the past, like in a negative or in a positive way. What I mean by this is that you can say that you have had the good luck to meet a lot of older people who actually played a good role in your life, or else you could say that you have had a bad luck and you did not really meet a lot of good older people, but this is the one person whom you would like to talk about in today's exam. Vocabulary. Now, while you are describing the person you choose to talk about here, you could talk about that person in different ways. Like you could describe their physical attributes. Like you could say that they have an impressive dressing sense. You could say, you could talk about their personality traits. Like you could say that the person is very altruistic in nature. What do you mean by altruistic? It means somebody who's very generous, who's good-hearted, who's kind-hearted. But remember, while using the vocabulary that we have provided you in this particular video, you should always use the proper collocations as well. You should not mess up the sentence framing. Do not memorize this list of words and simply go out there and speak them out in front of the examiner. The examiner is going to know that you don't really know how to use these words. You need to know what these words mean, and you need to use them in sentences in a proper way. You could call that the person is, you could say that the person is spontaneous, blends well with others, takes feedback in a healthy way, he or she is considerate of others, and an effective guide in studies or life. Now, if you are talking about someone who is your senior at work or at school, this would be a really positive way of talking about them when you say that the person is an effective guide in studies or in your life. Emotionally intelligent, now that's a very good quality. You could say that the person is emotionally intelligent and very understanding of others. Achievements, you could say that the person is well qualified, accomplished. You could use words like competent, means that the person is really good at what they do. The person is intelligent, experienced, and skillful. So these are the ways that you can describe that person. Now, even if you are speaking about your parents or your grandparents or your siblings or older cousins or whatever, all of these words can be used to describe them as well. Just keep in mind to use them in a proper way. The main part of your answer, you should include a specific reason why you chose to talk about this person. Because if you are saying that this is the older person you want to talk about, but then you're not saying why do you admire this person, it's going to get a bit incoherent along the way. So you should include a specific reason why you chose to talk about this person. And a good way to speak about this is saying, perhaps the foremost reason why I wish to talk about this particular person is so, so, and so. That's how you can frame your reason. Perhaps is considered good for vocabulary. You can include a specific incident that happened because of which you started to see them in a positive way. If you want to talk about a senior at school or work, you should include such an incident, because a person who is not related to you through family, through blood, but you still admire that person and you chose to talk about them, you should have a reason why. It is quite natural to admire our parents and our grandparents, but if you are choosing to talk about someone who's not a part of your family, it will be a good way to do the exam by giving a particular incident, like this so and so happened, and since then I realized that this is a really good person and I started to admire them. But if you want to talk about parents or grandparents, you might not need to talk about one particular incident. Instead, you can talk about how they have been a good example for you since childhood. So if you're talking about your parents, grandparents, or someone in your family, it's not important to speak out like one particular story. You could simply say that ever since childhood, they have been a positive influence on you, they have looked after you, they have cared for you, they have understood you, and that is why you admire them. So the answer could change according to whom you choose to talk about. Grammatical accuracy. What can you do for having good grammar while you talk about this person? While describing their physical attributes, personality traits, or achievements, use the simple present tense. So simple present tense is used to talk about something in general, like the person is this way, the person does things this way, the person is generous, they are accomplished, using good adjectives, using just a way to describe someone in general life, like you would use the simple present tense. While describing particular reasons or incidents that made you start admiring them, when you're talking about parents or grandparents, then you can use simple past tense, present perfect tense, or other tenses depending on the time frame you decide to talk about. Now, I cannot say that there should be this one particular tense only in your answer, but there can be one major tense that was followed. So if you're talking about parents or grandparents, you can use the simple past tense the most, you can use the past perfect tense or other tenses depending on the time frame you decide to talk about. So you can say things like, my father has been a very strong figure throughout my life. So that is present perfect tense. You can say that my father was hardworking. Ever since I was a child, I have seen him do a lot of struggle in his life. So these can be perfect tenses or past tenses. When you choose to talk about a senior, simple past tense will be the main tense for that part, but other tenses could also be used. So when you choose to talk about a senior and you are describing one particular incident, why you started to admire them, that's when you might use simple past tense the most. Okay, you could say that one day I was facing an issue with my assignment and I almost started to cry, and this person came to me and said that he or she could help me out because they knew about the topic and they helped me out in a very kind way. The person is humble, down to earth, and ever since I was able to get good marks on my assignment, I started to admire him or her. Grammatical range. Now, in order to improve your range, you need to use complex sentences. If you had read the band descriptors for speaking, you would know that you need to use complex sentences. Now, by complex sentences, I do not really mean complicated, heavy, and jumbled up, really high-level sentences. No, they're not really that difficult. You just need to use subordinate clauses or relative clauses to do that. If you don't know what are complex sentences and how to form them, we have a video specially made for that. We will link it down in the description and you can go and watch it, and it is actually quite easy. It's no big deal. To give you a shortcut way to do that, this is not a hack, but this is actual fact, how to form complex sentences. You can use words like although. You could form a sentence which is grammatically correct and has the word although, because if, after, whenever, when, whereas, so that, provided that, and there are other subordinate clauses or relative clauses. These are subordinate conjunctions, but then subordinate clauses and subordinate relative clauses also make complex sentences. So while you are speaking, while you are describing that person, or while you are describing the particular incident, why you started to admire them, you could try and form sentences with these words and you will be forming complex sentences. Ending. You could end the answer by saying that you wish you could be like them and inspire others. You want to keep in contact with them even in the future. So this particular point will be about if you are talking about someone who is not related to you. You want to implement what you learned from them and you are grateful for having them in your life. So this is how you could end this particular cue card. Describe an older person whom you admire. So this would actually give the whole answer a nice particular full circle moment, that you started it in a good way, generally talked about it, and then you described the person, you used the proper grammar, you use a good range of grammar, you use the proper vocabulary, you chose if you want to speak about the bullet points or not. Now the 2 bullet points that I specifically pointed out, you should talk about them, and then you ended it in a really good manner as well. So I hope that you understood how we are trying to map out how to answer this particular question and what things to include throughout your answer. It is always good to have a plan before you go into the exam, but never memorize your answers. Whoever that tells you just memorize this answer and go is not actually teaching you well. So the IELTS exam is about your ability to test speaking English in the speaking module at least, and you should be able to be spontaneous. You should not memorize answers, and it is okay to look at questions that are repeated in the exam, but it is never okay to follow word by word what somebody is teaching, because that is going to cost you marks, as examiners are trained to catch that. Form your own answers. The questions in the IELTS exams, the speaking exams, they're not very difficult. We all have someone whom we admire, and even if we don't, it's not rocket science. You can lie. You are allowed to lie in the IELTS exam, as long as you are using the correct English and satisfying the band descriptors. There's nothing wrong with lying. So if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, and let us know down below if there's anything in particular you didn't understand or want us to make a video on. Thank you and have a nice day.